city of Bangladesh, Dhaka, and the activity on a Sunday, which is the first working weekdays for the Bangladeshi people. The activity sounds very normal. People are on streets, traffic is on, and most of the day-to-day official activities have also started. But 300 kilometers from here, there is a different scenario. The cloud that you can see up in the sky is not because the Bangladesh weather is like this. This is an influence of Cyclone Mocha, which is making landfall 300 kilometers from here in Dhaka, in Cox's Bazar, the coastal town of Bangladesh, close to Myanmar. This will be one of the most severest cyclonic storm that Bangladesh has seen in recent decades, at least 2 decades, because the last severe storm that Bangladesh had faced was Sittwe, cyclone Sittwe, 10 years ago. This time, evacuation process of people in the low-lying areas and the coastal areas have already started because the Meteorological Department of Bangladesh, India and all in the region have predicted a very severe cyclonic storm in the coming days. In the last 1 week, about 1 million people in Bangladesh and Myanmar have been evacuated to safer places. The big trouble is going to be for the Rohingya refugees who live in Cox's Bazar area, and they do not have permission to leave the refugees camp until and unless told so by the administration of Bangladesh. They are fearing for their life and their minimal assets that they have had created in the last years as the refugees. Will that be safe or not? Meanwhile, the focus of Bangladesh administration has been to minimize the life, to minimize the casualty figures. In the last few years, what has happened in Bangladesh and to some extent in India, Bangladesh, Orissa also, that because of the early warning of this cyclonic storm, governments have been able to manage the rescue operation and evacuation operation so that the loss of life, the number of people who get killed in this cyclonic storm could be minimized. Though they cannot stop the damage of property, the construction or the physical infrastructure that has been created over the last years. But yes, of course, saving a life does matter. In Bangladesh, the government has been focusing on storing dry food, ration. These packets have been provided to people so that they can sustain the next 2-3 days of severe storm, flooding. The sea storm, which is the sea level, is also expected to rise by 10 to 15 feet, and this will create a deluge. Heavy rain is also expected on the top of it. So flooding is going to be there for at least another 2 to 3 days when the Mocha is going to make a landfall in Cox's Bazar. From there it will move to Myanmar, leaving a trail of destruction and damage. Both the nations this time are going to face this catastrophe. The cyclonic storms are not new in Bay of Bengal, but their frequency has increased in an alarming way, and experts are attributing the more number of these cyclonic storms to the changing global temperature or the climate change, because the moment continued heat is on the surface of seas, the seawater temperature rises, and that creates a hot air on the surface of it, resulting in the cyclonic storm. And it's twice in a year these situations are created on the sea surface in Arabian Sea, one in May, June and one in October, November. This is the first phase of cyclonic storm that Bangladesh is going to witness, and this is going to be one of the most severest cyclonic storm. While the capital city Dhaka looks very calmer, it is going to have some shower as well because of the influence coming from Mocha. Administration in the coastal areas are doing everything to save life and to create safe shelter so that the damage that Mocha is going to create with a wind speed of about 150 when it will be making a landfall is minimized. People do not suffer, or maximum number of lives could be saved. That has been the target of the administration of Bangladesh and the administration of Myanmar. Also, fishermen have been asked not to venture into the sea. Port activities in Chatgaon and other coastal areas have also been stalled for the next couple of days. We'll have to see how much of destruction or how much of damage Mocha is going to leave behind when it crosses from Cox's Bazar to the Myanmar side. The much feared cyclone Mocha is making a landfall in Bangladesh's Cox's Bazar, and this is going to be the most severest cyclone that Bangladesh has witnessed in the last 2 decades at least. The last major cyclonic storm was Sittwe, which had also done a catastrophic damage in Bangladesh and parts of other coastal areas. But now this Mocha has been doing a landfall in Cox's Bazar, and from here the Myanmar's coast is also very much under the influence of Mocha. About 5 lakh people have been evacuated to safe places in Bangladesh and in Myanmar also. The major port activities in Chittagong and other port falling in the line of that Mocha has also been halted. Operations have been halted. Fishermen had been asked not to venture into the sea because there is an anticipation that the sea level might grow by 10 to 12 feet under the severest storm and the wind that Mocha is bringing along. About 150 to 200 is the expected speed with which Mocha is going to make a landfall and do catastrophic damage. The priority of the government right now is to minimize the casualty figure. So the people who have been living in the refugee camps, also they have been moved to safer shelters so that even if there is a damage to property and assets, the life can be saved. There has been preparations going on for the last 1 week at least, and the senior administration in Bangladesh has been working very hard to ensure that the people in the coastal areas they remain to a safer places. The evacuation process has been going on for a very long time now. Cyclones are not new to Arabians to the Bay of Bengal, where twice in a year, like first during the month of May to June and the second in October. There are 2 possibilities every year where the cyclonic storms are created, but in the last few years there has been an increasing tendency of cyclonic storms in Bay of Bengal. Many experts attribute this increasing frequency of cyclone to the increasing global temperature. Now, as the temperature soars at the sea level and the water gets heated, the cyclonic storms are created. And so the more temperature sea surface will face, the more possibilities of a cyclonic storm. This time, this storm that is going to be in Bangladesh would be yet another climatic catastrophe that Bangladesh will be facing. Bangladesh has already been dealing with a lot of coastal line depletion and other climatic changes, but countries like Bangladesh and other who fall in the coastal region or who are island countries, they do face the first-hand brunt of the overall climate change that the world is witnessing. Right now, Bangladesh is going to deal with one of the most severest cyclonic storm in the decades, and Mocha is making a landfall in Cox's Bazar. With camera person Rahul Malhotra, this is Abhishek Jha from Dhaka for CNN News 18.